Welcome to the 182nd broadcast of the T-Row Show. This is your host, Keith. Got some, I have about a 5-minute video I'd like everybody to see. And then I'm going to do some critiquing. And it's a really good video, I think. It's a Trump video. It's an ad campaign video that he put out. Has for about 5 minutes, 5-minute video. Has a lot of information in it. So what I want to do is I want to play it for you, and then I want to critique it for you, because I'm going to show you a couple of things that you need to know, and we can go from there. So keep in mind, just have to put a notice out. I am not a part of the establishment, the Republican or Democrat Party. I'm a member of the North American National Party. That's not a 527 organization, which means it's not a private company, and it's part of a completely different government. So just letting you know that I have no interest on whether either who wins their corporate election. Okay, so I have no interest in that at all. Doesn't really bother me which way it goes. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share sound. All right, here we go.
Is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another 4-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefits of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. Who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Okay, that's a feel-good video. I'm not going to cut it down. I'm just going to show you some things that you need to see and to understand where we're coming from. And like I said, not going to try to take away from the message, not going to try to take away from the campaign or attack the man. He's had enough attacks, I think. All we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to show you the difference between a deception and a non-deception. And I don't think this deception is done on purpose. I think it's just a matter of ignorance. So let's start over on this. Watch this again, and we'll show you what we're talking about here.
Is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
Boom. Okay. This is about replacing it. Replacing what you have. Y'all get it? It's about replacing what you've got. It's not about fighting for what is already there. Watch it again.
Is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
Okay, now that's all good and well, but there's 320 million people. It's very difficult to do. You're going to have to spread that out, separate that out into the states. Okay? And you're going to have to become a party to it, which means you're going to have to take on some liability for what you're doing. You voting every 4 years is not a liability. That's just chump change. Chump change compared to what you have to or need to do.
Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has...
Okay, he's talking about the Federal Reserve there, all right? Now, we have offered the continental dollar over and over and over again, and the Federal Reserve keeps blocking us. Just letting you know. The Federal Reserve is blocking us. It's blocking us through the courts. We got corrupt judges over in Utah. They've got a case that's been going on for almost 3 years now. And they still won't break, man. You know why? I believe the reason why is because their head's on the chopping block. If they agree to it, they get killed. They're going to get suicided, and they know it. So that's a mafia. That's not any form of anything else. All right. Here we go.
Billions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind.
Okay, now I don't know why he doesn't go through that. He should be saying they partner with communists and socialists. That's what he should be saying, but he's not doing that. They partner with communists and socialists, which means they are against capitalism. Some people say, well, capitalism is horrible. Well, I'm going to show you after we go through this a little bit further, as in what capitalism really is and what you're supposed to be doing.
Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government.
Boom, right there. It said replacing it. At first it was replacing that government. Now it's claiming that Constitution again, going back and claiming the Constitution. Folks, there were 39 people that signed that Constitution. None of them were in office at the time. So therefore they never replaced the Articles of Confederation at all. That's been revamped today. You're welcome to come through it and go into your state and start dealing and start taking your states back by endorsing the Constitution that has been rewritten for you, and you're welcome to do anything you want to it as far as changing it or whatever you want to do, and become a chapter of the North American National Party and start voting in your state. Start replacing those charters, getting rid of those municipalities, all that kind of stuff. You can do all that right now. It does not depend on one man. What people don't realize is this. The Articles of Confederation and the government of the United States of America is equal to the other states. We are not over you. We only deliver your mail. That's it. We do have a United Nations. And that only applies to the 50 states, and that could apply to the whole continent, Brazil and other countries. We have a United Nations. It's called the the Continental Charter. Okay, the union's already revamped and brought back from our original union, and your original Federal Republic is brought back. It's just sitting in trust waiting for you. It's just sitting there, folks. That's it. Do a resident declaration. We get you into the union, and you'll start learning. The more you learn, the more you'll be ready to get your own state moving and everything else. It's already there. There's no reason to have a campaign. There's no reason to fight this guy. He's got nothing. Nothing. He has no power. Zip, zero, nada.
The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies.
The funny part about it is you were never a party to this because you never signed a social compact. You're never a party to this whole thing. Whenever you voted in that system, or whenever you vote in that system, all it is an opinion. You can find this in the media every year, or every year that they do this. It is just an opinion. It's the Electoral College that votes in a president, not you. And they don't follow the majority vote. They vote their own deal, their own conscience.
That have bled our country dry.
That's correct. They have bled the country dry, but guess what? It is their constitution, meaning Hillary, Bill, Obama, all those people. They're a part of the Constitution. They have an oath to it. When they sign that oath of affirmation, become a party to it. How many people that are listening to this message here, this broadcast, do I have an oath and affirmation to the Constitution of the United States that's recognized by the other signatories?
The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world.
That is true, and they're not following capitalism. We'll get back into that. We'll show you how to recover. We're going to show you how to recover this country.
It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities.
Yes, and those political entities and those large corporations that were put there, that's their money. They printed it. They just handed it to them. That's all. Gives the illusion. It's more illusion.
This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance.
Okay, that's a company flag. We've already talked about that. That is not a nation's flag. That's a company flag. That's where some of the misinterpretations are. That's where some of the misdirection is going. That's what I keep talking about.
Chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged.
And I remember telling everybody that Hillary was behind the whole thing anyways, and guess what?
This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers.
Keep in mind, there is no such thing and never has been global or U.S. sovereignty. It's not a country or a nation. It's just simply a corporation that operates as a government. The one that's supposed to be independent is the city of Washington. That's the three-city state, the three stars. City of Washington, City of London, City of or Vatican City. Those are the three. The U.S. has nothing to do with that. So you're basically swinging at blue sky when it comes to thinking, oh, that's U.S. sovereignty. No, it's not. There's no such thing and never has been. Do you think that the establishment would ever allow U.S. citizens to be independent and sovereign? Think about it. Do you think they ever would? Or have any kind of sovereignty whatsoever, or let them have sovereignty? I mean, think about it. There's just no way they would do that. They're not that great. They don't like you that much.
Her special interest friends and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up.
Right. So if you had sovereignty and you had independence, you would be able to lock her up, but you don't. She's in with the Rothschilds and all those people, which, by the way, the Rothschilds are attacking us through Reuters right now. And they're attacking the International Human Rights Tribunal. They're attacking it. They're trying to say it's fake, but the wording is done in such a way to say, well, we don't have any record of it. It's basically what they're saying of that. And they already know that court is valid, because when we put it in 2015, when we established it, all of a sudden, 6 months later, the U.S. has human rights little commissions everywhere, all over the country. It was funny. But anyways, I don't listen to them. They're full of it. All they're trying to do is get that judgment that's getting ready to come on them off their family name. And that's all they're trying to do. It's Reuters in Washington, D.C., and then there's one other in Scotland or Ireland, some company in Ireland that's doing it. But all they're saying is what we're not a part of. Okay, so they're saying that the Human Rights Tribunal is not a part of this, it's not a part of that, not a part of this, meaning it's autonomous. It's independent.
The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary.
Meaning they'll murder. he's telling everybody, yeah, they'll murder and they'll lie and they'll murder and they'll lie and they'll kill people, and anybody gets in their way, they murder them. That's just it. That's how they are. However, these people right here are descendants of George Washington. So, does it belong to them? Yeah, it does. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to them. Okay, let's go.
The Clintons are criminals. Remember that. This is well documented. And the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back.
Okay. The point being here, folks, is that you have a country, and it's already back. It's been back since 2012 and 13. Matter of fact, it was claimed in 2009 at the end of the year of 2009. I think it was in November. It's already done. We've already done this. And what they're doing now is just ridiculous. As far as, oh, what do you want to do? Do you want to take control of a company that you don't belong to? Or put yourself under a company flag that doesn't want you? That thinks you're deplorable, that thinks you're this and thinks you're that? You're just trash? Or do you want to be a part of the state that you live in, and you're actually a stakeholder in the state? If the state is successful, you're successful. If it's not, then you're not. So you have a stake in it. See, right now, if it's not successful, you can blame somebody. You can, hey, it's your fault. You screwed up. Oh, it's because of the corruption. Oh, it's because of this. Oh, it's because of that. You always have a finger to point. Well, I voted for you. One vote, right? That's all you get. You don't have any say in the laws that are passed. You don't have any say in anything because you don't have a social compact to stop them from making those laws. Because a private membership association took those over, which was the lawyers. So, yeah, they took your states. That's the crime. Not moving fast enough to get that straightened out.
I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefits of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family, instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks. Who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
We will take back this country for you. That doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't it be the people wouldn't be involved in that? That doesn't make any sense. There's something that's stretching from one part of it to the other. First, we're going to change the government and change everything. Then we're going to take back what we have And then now we're going to do it for you, all within 5 minutes. So which is it? So that doesn't make any sense. This is a video, so you have time to do some, some editing and things. Why wasn't that caught? It didn't make any sense to me. Okay, now you can find a copy of that under ArmstrongEconomics.com. They'll just put in the 2020 election and you should be able to find it. You can listen to it for yourself. Okay, now what we have to do is first we've got the immediate thing, the mask deal. Okay, that is coming from the socialists and communists through the Democratic Socialist Fascist Party. Okay, I mean, let's just call it what they are. They're communist, socialist, fascist. Same difference. And what they're doing is, when I say that it's a 527 organization, meaning the Democrats and the Republicans, it's a 527 organization. It's a company. It's a private company. And the only thing is it's not. It's just a private company. It does business as a political party. That's it. Their business is politics. So it's just a private company, nothing different than Walmart or Kmart or something like that. No different. I don't even know if they're in business or not. But anyway, so when they get into office, if a Democrat gets in office or a Republican gets in office, what happens is this not so much the Republicans right now, but the Democrats are doing these orders for face masks. So people start going after the governor. Don't go after the governor. Don't do that. If you want to stop it, go after the Democrats, the freaking political party, because it's a private company. It would be the same as if you got a Bob's auto parts on one side, in a business, and next door you got a beauty salon, and that beauty salon says, okay, the executive of our company has signed an executive order that everyone wears masks. So the beauty salon goes around and starts forcing everybody to wear masks. That's all the Democratic Party is. It's a beauty salon. It's Bob's Auto Parts. It's a Walmart. It's a Kmart. It's all it is. No different. So you go after the Democratic Party for the autonomous zones. You don't go after the city council. You go after the Democratic Party. They're the one that did it. They're the ones that did it. They're the ones that funded it. Okay? You go after the political party that was responsible for it. So, like I said, don't touch the governor because he didn't do it in that capacity. They'll say, well, he signed it as governor. Go look again. He didn't sign it as governor. He signed it as something else. They always do that, folks. They always sign it as, if you have in your Constitution, it says the office of the governor, they'll sign it as governor's office. That's a bogus signature. That's a private company doing that. That's not him in his official capacity. And don't even go after the guy who's holding the office. Just hit the freaking Democratic Party. Or you can turn your company into a private membership association, turn it into a private club. They can't do it either. Okay? So where do we need to go from here? That's the issue. We have all these things taken care of. So why, okay, what's your plan, right? You want to hear that? What's my plan? Well, first, we got to figure out what capitalism is. So let's figure that out, because I'm sure that information has been lost. Okay, now capitalism is an economic system in which private individuals, that would be you, or businesses own capital goods. That would be people that own businesses and own capital goods. If you own Bob's Auto Parts, you have tools and all this other stuff. That's capital. Okay. Production of goods and services is based on supply and demand in the general market. If you don't have any cars, you don't need. There's no need for Bob's Auto Parts. Known as a market economy, rather than through central planning, known as a planned economy or command economy. Purest form of capitalism of free market is laissez-faire capitalism. Here, private individuals are unrestrained. They may determine where to invest, what to produce or sell, and what prices to exchange goods and services. The laissez-faire marketplace operates without checks and controls. Today, most countries practice a mixed capitalist system, which includes some degree of government regulation of business and ownership of select industries. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways. Okay, capitalism is an economic system characterized by private ownership of the means of production, especially in the industrial sector. Okay, so that's where your private property comes from, where it's enforced in an economic system. It's enforced through capitalism. Communism and socialism, they enforce state-controlled businesses where they run your business. Okay, so if you have a Democratic governor and he's telling you to wear a mask, and he's saying, if you don't wear a mask, I'm going to shut your business down. Okay. Theft would be the first thing that you go after the Democratic Party for stealing your business, because they claim control. Once they claim control, they stole it. This can be done in civil court. Okay, doing a civil lawsuit. It's very easy to do. You can get them in default in 30 or 40 days. They never answer their lawsuits. They're ridiculous. Okay, that's the first one. You can turn it into a private membership association, or you can claim your business as a capitalist business. It's under capitalism. You believe in private ownership. You can make that a policy of your company. Okay, that's added to your bylaws and things like that. Now, that's number one. Now, capitalism depends on the enforcement of private property rights. Yes, it does. Which means now you have to go in and you have to talk to the police and say, look, what we need you guys to do is we need you to enforce private property rights. Okay, which means the state can't license private property in any way, shape, or form. Whoops. That means they have to go to the Secretary of State and say, Mr. Secretary or Mrs. Secretary, what we need, or Madam Secretary, I guess they call it, what we need is for you to open up a private property registration system for vehicles, motor vehicles. So people can register their motor vehicles there under private property. And we're going to charge them $5 to $10 or give them a plate so we can identify them if they hit somebody and it's a hit and run. And we're going to talk to the insurance companies and say, Mr. Insurance Company, what we're going to do is we're going to have to sell policies that deal with private property, meaning cars. Okay? And right now, the cars are under a National Registry Act of 1982. So it's all become public property. So public property for private use is a taxable event, I guess, and away you go. That's how they did it. So they made it public property. All right, capitalism developed historically out of the previous systems of feudalism and mercantilism in Europe and dramatically expanded the industrialization of a large-scale availability of mass-market consumer goods. Pure capitalism can be contrasted with pure socialism, where all means of production are collective or state-owned. You see what I mean? Where all means of production are collective or state-owned. That would suck. That means that everything you have is owned by the state, and they run it. So you're going to have a lot of ocasias, okay, running your state. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is vital that governors, this is coming from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which I don't even know if that's her real name. It's vital that governors maintain restrictions on businesses until after the November elections. So she's really concerned about you being sick. Get it? After the November elections, because economic recovery will help Trump be reelected. A few business closures or job losses is a small price to pay to be free from his presidency. So she's made the decision to just put you out of business because for some reason benefits her. I have no idea why, other than she wants to run your business. That's called a capital crime, I think. She's stealing and all kinds of stuff and trying to put you out of business and starve you out. I believe it's also genocide in a certain way. Yeah, you can't do that. All right. But anyway, that's what we're talking about here, and that's what needs to happen. Is you need to start small businesses again. Have you noticed that all the small businesses were considered non-essential? Even churches were considered non-essential, and they're really going after Christianity right now. It's heavy. I really wouldn't do that because you're going to get some people extremely upset over that, and will kill for Jesus. I'm telling you right now. Not a good idea to do that. So you have these they're going after all these small businesses, putting them out of business, but going after the the big businesses like Walmart and all them. Those are essential businesses. Okay, so now you get it. They're publicly owned, so they're essential. If they're privately owned, they're not essential. Go look at the list. They're publicly owned, stocks and bonds and crap. They're essential. If they're not publicly owned, they're not. Okay. So that, by the way, right there, she belongs in jail for that crap, for basically saying that. All right. So what we're really talking about here is you didn't get your privately or private property rights from a constitution. That's not where you got it from. Okay, that came from first of all the Bible. That first came up with ownership. All right, and then it spewed into it went into capitalism. They put it in a form of trade and commerce. That's where it came from. Okay. Now, what we're dealing with real world. The real world practice of capitalism typically involves some degree of so-called crony capitalism due to demands from business for favorable government intervention and government's incentive to intervene in the economy. Incentive to intervene in the economy. So that now you see what's going on. It really all boils down to money and the way you trade. That's really all it does. Now, capitalism and private property rights are fundamental to capitalism. That's what we need the police officers to enforce is private property rights. They're not enforcing that. They're enforcing the opposite of that. Okay, which makes them communists. And I don't even think they realize it. They just grew up in it and they don't know the difference. So that's why I'm explaining this here. So people really get the differences what capitalism and communism is. The most modern concepts of private property stem from John Locke's theory of homesteading. I've heard of homesteading and didn't know it came from John Locke. I thought that was interesting. In which human beings claim ownership through mixing their labor with unclaimed resources. Once owned, the only legitimate means of transferring property are through voluntary exchange, gifts, inheritance, or re-homesteading of abandoned property. Did not know that either. But that's it. That was interesting. Private property promotes efficiency by giving the owner of resources an incentive to maximize the value of their property. So the more valuable the resource is, the more trading power it provides the owner. In a capitalist system, the person who owns the property is entitled to any value associated with that property. Okay. Now I'm not going to go down to profits and losses and stuff like that, but I'm going to go down to this particular paragraph right here. Then I'm going to show you some things after that. Private property promotes efficiency. All right. Now, for individuals or businesses to deploy their capital goods confidently, a system must exist that protects their legal right to own or transfer private property. That's a court. They don't do that. A capitalist society will rely on the use of contracts, yes, fair dealing, yes, and tort law to facilitate and enforce these private property rights. How many torts do you ever see in these courts that they talk about tort law? They don't have it. Doesn't, it's not existent in there. Oh, we have to go through statutes. Let's go through our communist statutes. Now, when a property is not privately owned but shared by the public, the problem known as the tragedy of the commons can emerge with a common pool resource, which all people can use. None can limit access to. All individuals have incentive to extract as much use value as they can, and no incentive to conserve or reinvest in this resource. Privatizing the resource is one possible solution to the problem, along with the various voluntary, involuntary, collective action approaches. Now, that is that right there is communism. When you see the tragedy of the commons, for instance, everybody goes to the park. Well, not everybody. Some people go to the park, and you sit down on a park bench. Now, when you sit down on the park bench, that's not owned by you. You just use it. How many people in that county are going to paint that park bench? Well, that's why I pay somebody else to do. That's why I pay taxes. That's what they say. Nobody's going to take care of it. They're going to assume somebody else comes around and does it. They don't know who. They don't know how. It just happens. It's like magic. Just like when you go into the store and you see some chicken in a wrapping, and you buy that chicken, you don't know. It just started out there. That's where it began. It just appeared magically. Okay, so that is the difference. People that own something in common, like these stupid autonomous zones, so-called autonomous zones, where everything's held in common. Look at all the graffiti and all the crap everywhere. Everything's boarded up. Looks like crap. People are peeing on the sidewalk and defecating in the streets and stuff. That's gross. That's disgusting. That's just nothing more than a bunch of drug heads. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is we have to get back to capitalism. If the police start enforcing capitalism and the courts start enforcing capitalism again, you have a recovery. It begins. Okay? It's not going downhill under communism and socialism. Communism and socialism never works. And why it never works is because it's called the tragedy of the commons. But somebody like Ocasio doesn't know that. She's too young to know that. She doesn't understand any of that crap. All she thinks is that we can start giving stuff away, and we can become worshipped by others. Everybody will worship them as heroes, and everybody will do everything for them when they go into restaurants, and they kiss their butt and show their appreciation and all these wonderful things. That's all just ego. That's ego and vanity. And I personally don't want to be around people that are egotistical and vain. They're not fun to be around. The conversations with them are extremely boring. Not everything is about them, but they try to do that. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to show you a way where it doesn't really matter about Washington. It doesn't really matter. You do have the power, which he did say. You do have the power to change this. And you have the power to change this in the way that you trade in capitalism. But you really have to learn what it is and go back to private property rights and get that crap enforced. It has to be done at the local level and your county commissioners to start that process. Whoever fights it, gone. Get out of here. Whoever fights it, you just found your communist. Okay? Whoever tries to control it, you just found your communist. They need to get out. Because not cool, man. That's not cool at all. I work for stuff. Everybody else works for things. You expect to get paid when you're working. You take care of your own things. I mean, how are you going to get a car from somebody who's, has never owned the car? The state owned the car. They just have the use of it. So what are they going to do? They're going to run that thing in the freaking ground. That's what they're going to do. They're never going to put oil in it. They're never going to do anything. It's not owned by them. It's owned by the state. And if they can get a new one from the state, it's better to rag it out, so they can say, "Oh man, this one I can't use anymore, but I need to get one from the state, another car from the state." That's how it works. Free crap is not free. Never works that way. It becomes depressing. Incentive is gone. And I think that's why they try to get rid of Christianity, and that's why they don't like Jesus, because of the private property ownership and all that. I think that's in the face of that. I think Islam is the same way. They don't really have any private property ownership that that I know. Um, but you know, I guess everything belongs to a God that they created 1,700 years ago. So, you know, what is what it is. Okay, so that's where we need to start. And if that word can get around, your country is being held in safekeeping. It's there. We got it. Don't worry. That's not going anywhere. The meets and bounds is not going anywhere. The states are not going anywhere. The constitutions are not going in there anywhere. It is there, and it's there to stay. They are not going anywhere. Okay, so don't worry about that. What we got to do is get this this communism out of here. We got to get the communism out of here, and you start that by enforcing capitalism. And communists hate capitalism so much, when you start mentioning it, you're going to find a communist in your area real quick. They get real violent real fast. They're extremely radical, and they're nuts because you're messing with their God. They're usually atheists. So the state is their God, and you're going to take away from their God type crap. So anyways, just letting you know, that's where we start, and pass this around. Sorry it took so long to talk about, but you know, some of these things that take a little bit of time to explain. So thank you for listening to the 182nd broadcast of the T Rowe Show, and we will see you next week.